You achieved something incredible, and your first thought wasn't celebration. It was wondering if you somehow tricked everyone into thinking you deserved it. Someone gives you a genuine compliment, and instead of feeling good, you feel suspicious, uncomfortable, like they want something. You're surrounded by people, but you feel profoundly, achingly alone. This is the psychology of the emotionally neglected child, and it doesn't end when childhood does. Here's what most people don't understand about emotional neglect. It's not dramatic, there's no clear villain, no obvious wound to point to. It's the absence of something, and that makes it almost impossible to see. A 2014 study from the American Journal of Psychiatry found that childhood emotional neglect predicts adult depression and anxiety even more strongly than physical abuse. The wound no one can see becomes the pain you can't explain. What happens to a child's mind when their emotions are met with silence? Emotional neglect is the thing that didn't happen, and that's exactly why it's so hard to recognize. Your parents didn't hit you. They fed you, clothed you, sent you to school. From the outside, everything looked fine, maybe even good. But when you came home excited about something, the response was absent. When you were scared, no one helped you name the fear or sit with you through it. When you cried, you learned quickly that tears made people uncomfortable, so you stopped crying where anyone could see. Carl Jung called it the unlived life of the parents, passed down like an inheritance no one asked for. When caregivers can't access their own emotional world, they can't teach you to access yours. It's not malicious. Most emotionally neglectful parents love their children deeply. They simply cannot give what they never received themselves. A child's brain is learning a language in those early years. Not just words, but the language of feelings. What they mean, how to express them, that they even matter at all. When a toddler falls and scrapes their knee, it's not just about the physical pain. It's about the parent who kneels down, acknowledges the hurt, soothes them through it. That child learns, pain is temporary, comfort exists, my feelings are worthy of attention. But when that same fall is met with, you're fine, stop crying. When sadness is met with, don't be so sensitive. When excitement is met with distraction or dismissal, a different lesson embeds itself. Your emotions are too much. Your needs are burdensome. The safest thing to do is disappear inside yourself. Here's the cruelest part. Physical abuse leaves evidence. Neglect of basic needs is visible. The hungry child, the unsupervised child. But emotional neglect? A 2018 study in the Journal of Child Psychology found that adults who experience emotional neglect in childhood often can't even identify what happened to them. They describe their childhood as normal or fine because nothing bad happened. They can't name the absence, they just carry it. You learn to be small. You learn that your emotional existence is an imposition. You become a child who doesn't ask for anything, not because you don't need anything, but because you learned that needing is dangerous. And that child grows up into an adult who still believes, at the deepest level, that their inner world doesn't matter. The absence becomes the architecture of your entire personality. So what does that architecture look like from the inside? First, there's the emotional numbness. Not sadness exactly, more like a flatness, a distance between you and your own feelings. You might describe yourself as not really feeling much, or pretty even-keeled. What sounds like emotional stability is actually disconnection. When emotions were unsafe to express as a child, your psyche did something brilliant and tragic. It built walls between you and those feelings. The problem is, you can't selectively numb. When you shut down pain and fear, you also shut down joy and excitement. Psychologist Jonas Webb, who pioneered research on childhood emotional neglect, found that adults who experienced it often describe a persistent feeling of emptiness. Not depression with its heavy darkness, but a hollow space where emotional richness should be. You go through life functioning, achieving, even. But there's this sense that everyone else got an instruction manual for being human that you somehow missed. Then there's the hypervigilance around other people's emotions. You became a reader of rooms, an expert at detecting the slightest shift in someone's mood. Because your own emotions didn't matter, survival meant managing everyone else's. You learned to scan faces, interpret tone, anticipate needs. It's exhausting. You walk into a party, and within minutes, you've cataloged who's tense, who's faking happiness, who's about to start an argument. Meanwhile, if someone asks how you feel, blank, static, nothing. The self-criticism is relentless. That internal voice that tells you you're not enough, you're too much, you're doing it wrong. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about the bad conscience, that voice of internalized judgment that punishes us for our very existence. For the emotionally neglected child, that voice formed early. When your feelings were met with dismissal or discomfort, you learned to police yourself before anyone else could. You became your own harshest critic, your own emotional prison guard. And here's what makes it so insidious. You don't trust your own perceptions. Someone hurts you. And your first thought isn't, that was wrong. It's, am I being too sensitive? You have a need. And before you can even voice it, you've already talked yourself out of it. It's not that important. Other people have it worse. I'm being dramatic. A 2016 study in development and psychopathology found that emotional neglect specifically damages the development of self-referential processing, the brain's ability to recognize and validate its own internal states. You learn to abandon yourself before anyone else could. There's also the achievement paradox. You might be wildly successful by external measures, high achiever, responsible, the person everyone relies on, but success feels hollow because you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to finally earn the attention and validation that should have been freely given. You're trying to prove you deserve to take up space. The goalpost keeps moving because external achievement can never fill an internal void. Relationships become minefields. You're drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable because that's what feels familiar. Or you push away people who offer genuine care because kindness feels foreign, suspicious even. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires believing your inner world is worth sharing. When you don't believe that, connection becomes terrifying. This is the invisible architecture, built in childhood, inhabited in adulthood. You're 35, 40, 50 years old, and you're still living like you have to earn the right to exist. Look at your romantic relationships. You're attracted to partners who are emotionally distant, unavailable, hard to read, not because you're broken or masochistic, but because that uncertainty feels like home. When someone is inconsistent with affection, when you have to work for their attention, when love feels conditional, your nervous system recognizes that. It says, yes, this is what love looks like. The partner who's stable, consistent, openly affectionate, they terrify you. You find reasons why it won't work. You convince yourself they're boring, or you're not attracted to them, or something feels off. What's actually off is that they're offering something you never learned to receive. Safety feels dangerous when chaos is your baseline, or maybe you're the opposite. You've become so self-sufficient that you don't let anyone in at all. You pride yourself on not needing people. I'm independent. I handle things myself. But independence built on childhood neglect isn't strength. It's a defense mechanism calcified into identity. You're not choosing solitude. You're protecting yourself from the vulnerability of needing someone and being disappointed again. At work, you're probably the reliable one. The person who takes on extra projects, stays late, never complains. Your manager loves you. But inside, you're exhausted. You can't say no because saying no means risking disapproval, and disapproval feels like abandonment. You work twice as hard as everyone else for half the recognition, and even when you get recognition, you deflect it. It was nothing, really. Anyone could have done it. Friendships carry this pattern too. You're the friend everyone calls when they need support, but you never make the call yourself. When you're struggling, you isolate. You tell yourself you don't want to burden anyone. The truth is deeper. You don't believe your pain is worthy of someone else's time. You've spent so long managing other people's emotions that you forgot you're allowed to have your own. If you have children, this is where it gets complex. You swore you'd never do to them what was done to you, and you probably don't. You probably show up in all the ways your parents didn't. But there's this moment. Your child comes to you upset about something that seems small, trivial even, and you feel this irritation rise up. Not because you're a bad parent, but because their emotional expression triggers something in you. The part of you that had to suppress feelings sees their freedom to feel and doesn't know what to do with it. Or the opposite happens. You're so terrified of repeating the pattern that you become hyper-vigilant about their emotions. You rush to fix every feeling, solve every problem. You can't tolerate their discomfort because it reminds you of your own unresolved pain. Either way, the neglect you experienced is still writing the script. Then there are the small, daily erosions. You're at dinner with friends, and everyone's sharing stories, laughing, you're laughing too, participating even. But there's this glass between you and the moment. You're watching yourself be there rather than actually being there. Dissociation became such an effective childhood survival tool that you can't turn it off. You struggle with basic self-care, not because you're lazy or don't know better, but because taking care of yourself requires believing you're worth taking care of. Skipping meals when you're busy, ignoring your body's signals for rest, pushing through illness, these aren't discipline problems. They're the adult echo of a child who learned their needs don't matter. The most painful part? You look around and everyone else seems to have figured out how to be a person, how to know what they want, ask for what they need, feel feelings without drowning in them. You're smart, capable, accomplished, but this fundamental thing, this being a human thing, feels like a foreign language you're still trying to learn. And the cruelest irony is that you're probably incredibly empathetic. You can read people, comfort them, hold space for their pain. You develop these skills as a child because emotional attunement was survival, but you cannot extend that same compassion to yourself. Here's the shift that changes everything. You have to see what was never there. That sounds simple. It's not. Your mind will fight you on this because recognizing emotional neglect means acknowledging that something essential was missing, and that means feeling the grief of what you deserved but didn't receive. It's easier to keep believing you were fine, your childhood was normal, you're just defective somehow. Easier to pathologize yourself than to recognize the environment failed you. But recognition is where healing starts, not with fixing yourself, but with seeing yourself accurately for the first time. You begin to notice the patterns, the way you apologize for existing, the way you minimize your own pain while holding infinite space for others, the way you exhaust yourself trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. These aren't character flaws. They're adaptations, brilliant survival-level adaptations to an environment that couldn't hold your emotional reality. Psychologist Alice Miller spent her career studying this exact phenomenon. She wrote about the drama of the gifted child, how emotionally neglected, children often become exceptionally attuned to others while remaining strangers to themselves. The gift wasn't a blessing, it was compensation, and recognizing that means you can finally stop performing. The work becomes learning to parent yourself in the ways you needed but didn't receive. When you feel something, you pause. You ask, what is this feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? What does it need? Not to fix it immediately, not to make it go away, just to acknowledge it, to give it the attention it deserved all along. You start practicing something that feels absurdly uncomfortable at first, treating your needs as legitimate, not selfish, not burdensome, legitimate. You're hungry, you eat, you're tired, you rest, you want to say no, you say no. These sound trivial, but for someone who spent their entire childhood learning that their needs were an imposition, this is revolutionary. There's grief in this process, real heavy grief. You're mourning the childhood you deserved, the parent you needed, the version of yourself that could have grown up feeling safe in your own emotional skin. Let yourself feel that. Don't rush past it with toxic positivity or gratitude platitudes. The grief is part of the healing. You might need professional help with this. Therapy isn't weakness. It's finally giving yourself what you needed all along. Someone to witness your inner world, to reflect it back to you, to teach you the emotional language you never learned. A 2020 study in the Journal of Clinical Psychology found that therapy, specifically targeting childhood emotional neglect, showed significant improvements in emotional regulation and self-compassion within 6 months. The relationships start to shift too. You notice yourself drawn to different people. Stable suddenly doesn't feel boring. It feels nourishing. You start setting boundaries, and yes, some people leave. The ones who benefited from your self-abandonment won't like the version of you that takes up space. Let them go. You're not healing to maintain relationships that require you to stay broken. You learn to sit with your own discomfort instead of immediately fixing it, or numbing it, or working through it. You learn that feelings pass, that you can survive them, that experiencing emotion fully is how you move through it, rather than staying stuck in it. This takes time. Decades of disconnection don't heal in weeks. But here's what starts to happen. That glass between you and your life, it starts to thin. You have moments, maybe just seconds at first, where you're actually present, where you feel something real and don't immediately analyze it, or apologize for it, or push it away. Where you exist without performing. You start to develop a relationship with yourself. Not the self you show the world, not the self you think you should be, but the actual messy, feeling, needing, alive self that's been waiting underneath all those adaptations. The self that's been there all along, just never seen. This doesn't mean you become a different person. You don't lose the empathy, the attunement, the ability to hold space for others. But you finally extend those same gifts inward. You become whole instead of fractured, present instead of dissociated, here instead of perpetually braced for abandonment. The child who was emotionally neglected doesn't disappear, but they finally get the recognition they always deserved from the only person who can give it to them now, you. So maybe take a moment after this, not to fix anything, not to make a plan, just to ask yourself one question. What did I need as a child that I'm still not allowing myself to have as an adult? Sit with that. See what comes up. If this resonated with something in you, I'd genuinely love to hear about it in the comments. Sometimes just naming these patterns out loud to someone, even a stranger on the internet, is the first step toward recognizing them. And if you want more psychology that goes beneath the surface, like this, you know what to do. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And thanks for doing the hard work of seeing yourself clearly.